Welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk about a question that I get a lot, and that is why does everybody hate Tesla? And I'm going to show you guys in the video why some examples of why that question comes up. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the very obvious aspect of, things happening to Teslas. And what kind of things? Well, there's people that are vandalizing Teslas and people are doing some silly things. Now, in all fairness, these all obviously are targeted. At one point, you hear about people talking about trucks parking in Tesla, in the charging stalls. I don't know if it's Tesla per se. I think it is more along the lines of electric vehicles in general. And I think this is where the misunderstanding happens. The whole notion that people hate Tesla is kind of weird in one way, but I do understand that it is a possibility. So what do I mean by this? There is a possibility that people may hate Tesla or just dislike Tesla, and this is very important to understand the difference. I think hate is a very strong word. I think what's really important to understand is a lot of people dislike Tesla because whenever you have a company that causes a disruption, it becomes a very well, it becomes an issue, right? So if you really think about Tesla as a company, they've come along and they've caused a disruption. They caused a problem for the way people look at certain things, right? Now, all of a sudden, a lot of people are seeing, well, wait a second, there's chargers now. There's these places where you can't park because, well, people go there only with electric vehicles. And so this is kind of a interesting perspective, right? Because if you pull up to a store now, you're going to see a lot of places where, okay, this is a handicap zone, you can't park there, and then now all of a sudden this is the other area that is for electric vehicles and you can't park there. And people don't take kindly to change. People react very differently to change. Typically people don't take change well. That's just the way it is. But I think this goes back even further than this. I just hit my microphone. I think it goes back a little bit further than this. I think it goes back to the days when, with electric cars especially, you can get a OK decal, which basically allows you to go on the HOV lanes without, a second passenger. So you don't need a passenger, basically. You can be in the car by yourself, as long as you have the OK sticker on there, because it's an electric vehicle, or if it's a hybrid, you can basically go down the HOV lane all you want by yourself. And then there's all these other people that are doing the same exact thing, but they don't have an electric vehicle, and what ends up happening is they're getting ticketed. And I don't think, see, that to me, I think it's a great incentive, but it's not necessarily the right way of doing things. And so it causes a little bit of a problem with how people react to Tesla, mainly because I hear so much more about Tesla. And if you notice, if anybody who's not living under a rock, Prius has a bad name. When you say the words Prius, and don't get me wrong, there are reasons for it, but you know, Prius was one of the first ones to really start that whole thing where there's this electric or hybrid vehicle being on the HOV lane or being on a far left lane, and they're just taking up space and they're going slower than everyone else and so forth and so on. Now, obviously, that's not going to be a problem with Tesla. Teslas are freaking fast, but most electric vehicles are very fast. But the issue comes down to the fact that it's a huge change. All of a sudden, you hear all these things about Teslas and electric vehicles in general running around, and and you feel like there's almost like an entitlement feeling for a lot of people who own these cars. And so again, people don't take kindly to that. People look at it as, okay, wait a second, I paid whatever I paid for my car. You have your car, but you're getting this special treatment. I've been told before where, that us having our spots for charging, and more often than not, it's usually right by the entrance of certain places, that, we're getting special treatment, right? And we're not getting special treatment. This just makes sense. It's wherever you can put a charger for the least amount of money, and typically that's going to be closest to the building or closest to the power source of that building. That's just the way it is. I mean, here in Surrey, for example, well, I live in Vancouver, but in Surrey there are places where the superchargers in Surrey, where I sometimes go to, it's literally at the very back end of the parking lot. So it's not like, that one doesn't apply, but there are places where it does apply, absolutely. So I think people don't necessarily hate Tesla. I think people going out and scratching the cars and keying the cars, trying to damage the cars, kicking the chargers, and you typically get to see where the issue lies, because people just have this I don't even know what to call it, but again, I don't think it's hatred. I just think they have a very much of a dislike for this change, because they're hearing about this company that's making such big impact on the auto industry. And again, yes, to a degree, I can understand why people think that this is a hated company, but it's not. The people who buy these vehicles are not, they're not necessarily, they're taking the brunt force of all this. Obviously, Tesla themselves are taking the brunt force. I mean, there's so much fake news and BS going around, it doesn't even make any sense. So why is Tesla a hated company? Ultimately, Tesla disrupted the entire automotive industry, and because they disrupted the automotive industry, it kind of caused a chain reaction going pretty much down all the way to the consumer. And the consumers ultimately who want to buy gas vehicles, they're hearing about these cars that are getting special treatments, like I said, with the OK sticker and so forth and so on. There's incentives in play, and there's so many little things, but so it kind of takes a different mentality for these people. I find it hilarious because this is a good change. For somebody who owns a Tesla, for somebody who actually drives these cars, I can tell you, it's such a positive change in my life having this car. As much as I try and express that on this channel, it's very difficult for me to do it, because it's just a crazy thing. I enjoy driving my car unlike any other car I've ever had, and that's honestly the truth. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the people who actually sit in these cars, they stop hating the company, they stop hating the cars. It really comes down to something that simple. I know a few people who got into my car, and they were so, oh well, they had not hate, but they didn't really necessarily understand what was going on. They weren't swayed either way, but they really had a very negative reaction to the Tesla. And so I said, you know what, guys, it's not a big deal. Come with me, get in my car. I'll take you for a drive, see what it's all about, and ask me any questions you have. I sent them a few links to some other YouTubers, some of the stuff that I do, and some of the, obviously, my channel. And you know what? They've become subscribers. They've become people who actually changed, their minds are changed. They no longer hate Tesla, but rather understand where Tesla is going. And I think this is the key here. You're not going to understand this company or these cars unless you're actually in the car, and you're going to take time to get in there and understand what is happening and why there is such a big passion from everybody who owns them. And let me point out something. It's not only about a Tesla. I mean, Teslas are being targeted by a lot of people, but it's not about just Tesla. Go and sit in any electric vehicle, and I mean that. As much as I love the Tesla brand and Tesla cars, I I will never tell somebody this is the only car that you should buy. I think it's the best car. I think it's the best option, but there are other options out there, and there's going to be more coming. And this is going to be very interesting for me to see with, the are there going to be ultimately the same kind of mentality? Is that going to exist if a legacy manufacturer does it? So we all know that, we all heard about Jaguar and so on and so on, but the next big one coming out is coming from Ford, and that's going to be the Ford Mustang Mach-E that's supposedly, supposed to compete with the Model Y. when that car comes out, is that car going to be treated the same way as a Tesla is? And I think that is going to determine how much people really are against Tesla, or are they against the industry as a whole, right? We all have our things that we don't like, or some, things that we're so used to, we enjoy, and we've become accustomed to. Ultimately, there's a change that comes in our way and changes our the way we see things, or the way it affects our life. It's very hard to just kind of let it go. More often than not, people will not let it go. They'll just kind of go head in first and try and disrupt the way people think. And there's a lot of people out there who, I saw this one thread where they're literally saying, let's just go and damage enough Teslas that people will be scared to buy Teslas. I mean, that's a silly thing to do. That's also criminal. And here's the worst thing about this. At the end of the day, there's so many people who ultimately got charged because Teslas have cameras. Well, I don't know when people are going to understand this. Tesla has, it's called Sentry mode, right? So they have cameras which are recording what you're doing. And it doesn't matter if it's just a little accident. It doesn't matter if you are vandalizing the car. The system captures you and it records everything. So why even bother? I don't like the idea that Tesla has a negative impact on people, but I do understand why. And I think it has everything to do with, it's such a drastic change for the people. There's such a impact on what people have to kind of become accustomed to, that a lot of people just don't know how to deal with it. And like I said, especially if people are getting affected in their own wallets, right, where their car depreciates because all of a sudden people don't want that car, they would want this car, and it's because of this car that that car is depreciating. So I think that's really what it is. I would love to know your opinion. I mean, tell me, leave me your comments. Tell me, what is it that you think is causing this hatred, and is this something that we should be? Is this something that's going to take effect even after the legacy automakers are going to come up with more and more of the EVs? Do you think those EVs are also going to be targeted the same way that Teslas are? Anyway, that's what I have for you guys tonight. Well, this afternoon anyway. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it. But let me know in the comments below what you think, and what your where your mindset is at when it comes to all this. All right. Till the next video, please everybody drive safe and take care of yourselves, and well, have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye.